Hello, welcome to the Zenshin Self-Defense Academy. We are not a black belt dojo. So, I have talked with some of my higher-ranking students recently about a couple topics, and I felt like maybe I should discuss it on this channel here. I'm not sure how well it will be received or if it'll be received at all, but why not? So I have a student who has reached brown belt and will actually be taking his first tip brown test this month or next month. I'm not sure when that will occur. I do not, and it's the same general thing, but I'm kind of going to get off topic of what I planned on talking about. I do not plan and schedule testings at the Zenshin Academy for many reasons. Some of them are selfish and personal, and some of them to me they all have very practical reasons. I don't charge money for testing fees. I don't charge belt fees. I don't charge students all those excessive crazy extras that most dojos do. Now, on the flip side, I don't really make any money on this thing. The dojo does not, it is not self-sustainable. So, I don't charge for all of these things, but also I couldn't run the place solely on the money that's coming in, plain and simple. But finances has never been the reason that I teach martial arts. But I do have a student that is getting ready to go for his first tip brown, and generally what occurs during a testing is that when someone tests in the Zenshin Aikijitsu system, or in this particular case, Zenshin Aikido, because white belt to black belt is just the Aikido. That's strictly where it stays. But when you test, you not only test for the belt that you're testing for, this particular techniques and skills that are required for that particular belt. Pardon me. But you have to start at the very beginning and start with your footwork and your rolls and falls, which are your first tip white belt, and you do everything. So every time you test, no matter what the belt level, you start all the way to the beginning and you test from the beginning and continue on until you get to wherever your belt is. Now, I don't think that's very common. Maybe I'm incorrect, but to me it's extremely important that students maintain not only what they're learning at the present time, but they must maintain and improve on what they did previously. The only way for me to be absolutely sure that's occurring is to make sure they start at the very beginning and work their way forward to whatever rank they're doing. It's just how I've done it. I like it, and it's just not going to change. But this particular student is very skilled in what we're doing, and he is a black belt in another system outside of what I teach. And when he came to me as a black belt from that other system, and he has, I'm not going to say super extraordinary abilities or anything like that, but he has the ability to generally pick up on and do things a little bit better than is necessarily generally expected from someone. So I could take him from footwork, rolls and falls, Ikkyo, Nikkyo, Sankyo, Yankyo, Gokyo, Rokyo, Shiho, continue until he reaches the first tip brown belt. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it would probably take him, and I do consider him slightly above the average, it would take him probably 2 hours to be able to take that first tip brown belt test. And that doesn't include the specific first tip brown belt requirements. That's getting to that point. It would probably take him about 2 hours. I'm not really interested in making him do that, because even though I could, it's not really necessary in his case. So what I've planned on doing is just specifically designed on the requirements for first tip brown belt. Now, the majority of first tip and second tip brown belt in the Zenshin Aikijitsu system is randori. At this point, he has the basis of the techniques that we work, and now he just needs to place them into a realistic situation and be able to do them. Randori. Now, some people say, oh, Aikido, you can't do Aikido in real life and have it work. Well, incorrect. So maybe you can't. We'll put it that way. Maybe you can't get it to work. But I have done it on several occasions. But that's not what this video is about. So for his brown belt first tip test, he really only needs to accomplish one goal for this brown belt test. However many students show up to the testing, all he's got to do is, using decent Aikido, all he's got to do is take everybody down one time. That's it. One-on-one. It's not multi. Second tip brown belt is multiple attackers with randori. And I'm not talking about the randori that you generally see on YouTube, where, you know, they come at you and you just kind of touch them, maybe touch them, and they start flipping and flying around. No, that's not how the Zenshin Academy works. We're going to grab you. We're going to slam your ass to the ground. We're going to do everything we can to make your life not happy for a while. So realistically, he needs to defend himself at first tip brown belt just against one person. The goal is simple. Somebody goes to the ground. Doesn't matter if it's them or if it's him. Whoever goes to the ground, that's when it stops. And all he has to do is, using decent Aikido, at least one time per person, take him down. Now, maybe, let's just say that there's going to be 3, maybe 4 people being his uki. So let's just say 3 people. He's going to have 3 people being his uki. All he's got to do is take each one of those people down one time, maybe 2. I haven't completely decided. If he does it straight away, he might have to do it twice. But all he has to do is take those 3 individuals down using decent, proper Aikido techniques with complete resistance. Complete resistance. All he's got to do. That's it. Now, it may take him 3 times, 1 per person, and he does it. It may take him 50 times. I don't know. But however long it takes him, that's how long it's going to take. So that's going to be his brown belt test, his brown belt first tip test. When he hits his second brown belt tip, he's got to do the same thing, but with 2 or more people. So 2 or 3 people. I won't push it too far. Now, when I took my black belt test, I think there was 5 people. I think there was around 5 people. And I'm not talking about the YouTube Aikido stuff you see. These guys jumped on me and took me to the ground and started pounding my ass. So, realistic single one-on-one attacks. Yeah. So anyway, that's what he's looking for. I don't plan on pushing him from white belt to first tip brown belt or white belt to second tip brown belt. When it comes to that, randori is really going to be his requirement, because that's the requirement for those the major requirement for those belt tips. Now, when he gets to black belt, he's going to start over with first tip white belt techniques. He's got to do his footwork, his rolls and falls, through the entire set of Aikido techniques that we do in the manner that we do them in. And everything that's required from white belt all the way to brown belt are the techniques and the prearranged, that sort of stuff. Once he hits the requirements for the first tip and second tip brown belts, he's going to have to do those as well. And then there's a few other specifics that is possibly going to be asked of him when he takes his black belt test. But maybe this year, and it's January, it's like mid-January, just turned 2024. He's got his first tip brown belt, his second tip brown belt, and then his black belt test to go. Maybe this year, it's possible he might be able to take his black belt test sometime towards the end of the year. I'm not 100% sure that would be doable, but it's possible. It's possible. So, especially if I don't push the white to, complete. If we just do the tip testings with the brown belts as far as just randori, and we focus mostly on randori for him, I think he might be able to possibly get his black belt by the end of the year. So anyway, what I was originally going to talk about on this particular video, my particular martial art is Zenshin Aikijitsu. Now, when we first begin training, anytime someone begins training with the Zenshin Aikijitsu system, we start with Aikido. We start with Aikido techniques. Although it's definitely not fluffy bunny in the way that you normally see Aikido, it's not violent and mean like it does get later in the Jitsu version instead of the Do version. So there's a kind of a mid-level. It's not fluffy bunny, but it's not I'm going to rip your head off and shit down your neck type thing. There's a medium there, and that's my Aikido. So I've been discussing with some of my higher level students because I just don't feel, I think everybody should know this, but I just don't think it's going to be beneficial to the great extent to some of the newer students or the students that are at lower ranks. It's important information, and I think everybody should know it. I just don't want to clutter or muddle up their training by excessively expressing some things. So, and I don't know how else to explain that. I mean, I think it's something that everybody should know, but it's not something that I just come out and tell everybody. So, most of my students comprehend my attitude about things, and that's the reason, partly the reason they're my students, is because they agree with the way I am. If you don't agree with my attitude, I'm pretty sure you probably wouldn't hang around my dojo. But I'm not a passive, fluffy bunny martial artist. I'm really not. I completely feel that, yes, I completely comprehend that there's other reasons to train martial arts other than street-oriented combat. I comprehend that exists. I've done videos on the three reasons for martial arts and the three types of martial arts, and that's not exactly what this video is about, but I distinctly have my mindset on there's different reasons for people training martial arts, and combat is not the top one. It really isn't, unfortunately. My personal attitude is that if I want just something to do, I can find something to do. You know, if I want exercise or something to that effect, I can find something to do other than martial arts. If I want to learn how to hand-to-hand defend myself in the street, martial arts. But regardless. But a lot of people have issue with Aikido in general, and they perceive that it is just not feasibly possible to use it in real life. Now, that's okay. I mean, I'm fine with people's attitude that way. I mean, honestly, it benefits me, because if I ever encounter someone in the street that has negative intentions on me or those that are around me, I want them to think Aikido sucks. I really do. You know, surprise on them. But and I completely get why people see that. And it is difficult for someone to get Aikido to work if you're doing it the way you normally see it done in like YouTube videos and stuff. I call it fluffy bunny Aikido. And what's worse than fluffy bunny Aikido is pink fluffy bunny Aikido. That's really horrible. But I get that probably isn't going to help you in a real life situation. And that's mainly what you get, especially on YouTube. But I've been talking with a few of my students, as I said before, about the reasons we do certain things that seem kind of odd. So I'm going to express that in this video here, and that's really where I'm getting at. This whole everything before this is kind of just me chattering. Rolling and falling. Now, Aikido is a locking, trapping, and throwing art. And especially if you do it in a manner that is for real life, you're going to really hurt somebody. And just tell you that right now, you will really hurt somebody. So the rolling and falling, why do we roll and fall? Now, you're going to get a million different answers, and I'm going to give you my personal belief on it. And this is how I teach it with my students. The biggest reason we roll and fall in Aikido has nothing to do with what the other person is doing to us. Not really. So when you see somebody do Aikido, the Aikidos will do something, blah, 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 whatever they do. And then you'll see someone just flip through the air and fall to the ground. Now, fluffy bunny Aikido, you don't have to really do anything but just stand there, and they'll just do all that work for you without you even touching them. You know, if you're going to talk about pink fluffy bunny or fluffy bunny Aikido, it doesn't take much. You could just go like that, and they'll just fly around and fall. But if you properly execute a decent Aikido move, and you do it in a manner that you're trained to do it in, you will take somebody's balance and they will fall down. Now, why do we fall? And I'll tell you again, it's got nothing to do with the other person throwing us. We don't have to roll. You're going to see all those pretty little rolls, and they'll grab you and throw, and then you do the pretty little roll and all that. Nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. It teaches really good principles on both sides of that. Now, the person doing the technique learns the technique. The person that's receiving the technique learns how to roll and fall. All right? Now, I think the interesting thing is my personal reason why I roll and fall and why I teach my students to roll and fall. And it's got nothing to do with someone forcing you to do that. It's got to do with the fact that you, as the person rolling and falling, are doing exactly what I teach you to do. You are taking control and never releasing control to the other person. You roll and fall because it's the safest thing for you to do. It's got nothing to do with them throwing you. If you get off balance, and Aikido will get you off balance, if you get off balance and stumble, or stagger and bop, 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 and say you don't fall down and you just stagger and trip and boom, boom. Now you have a potential of hurting yourself. Or if you stagger and trip and scoot on, maybe you have a potential of running into something and hurting yourself. All right. And you've lost control. You've lost control of the situation if you're staggering and stumbling and tripping, but you don't go down. You're staggering, you're stumbling, and then possibly you will go down and get yourself hurt. So we will initiate, once we get our balance taken, we will initiate the fall or the roll so that we maintain control of the entire situation. I would much rather roll out of something or fall to the ground, because I'm completely comfortable on the ground against any normal person out there. Completely comfortable. So when I hit the ground, I do it because I choose to do it. I do it under my own control. I do it for my own personal safety. That's the reason I roll and fall. That's the reason I teach my students to roll and fall. It's got nothing to do with me doing a technique and forcing you to do that. So if I force you to move in a manner you don't want to move, I'm going to take your balance. It's a good possibility I'll get your balance. Or I will hurt you in the process of trying to take your balance. Either way, I'm going to win. But if you take control of that situation and you roll and fall out of that, now you're still in charge. Whether I know it or not, you're still in charge because you've taken complete control of the situation. So that's the reason that I roll and fall. That's the reason I teach my students to roll and fall. It's got nothing to do with being thrown. It's got nothing to do with I have to do it this way because I'm going to go down and they're making me do that. No. I'm taking charge, period. Also the grabs. We grab. We start with grabs like this and like this. We start from a grabbing situation. You're going to see it all the time on YouTube. Oh, no one would ever do that. That doesn't happen. That's not realistic. Blah, 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 blah. Maybe, maybe not. Again, that's got nothing to do with why we do it at the Zenshin Academy. Nothing to do with it. Now, two reasons we grab. One is it is a safe and easy way to teach a technique. All right? It's a safe and easy way to start teaching a technique, period. It just is. It's safe. It's easy. It's programmable. It's predictable. It's easy to understand. And it's a starting point so that everybody starts in the same position. Everybody learns it the same way. And it's all systematic. All right? That's a good reason. It's not the only reason, and to me it's not the most important reason. There's a quote-unquote secret reason that I teach my students to, when we do techniques, we start by a grabbing position. You can argue all day long, no one's ever going to come up and grab you. Well, that's not really true. I have been, and I say this all the time, I have been in martial arts for 45 years. I have a lot of experience on a mat in a dojo, which isn't fighting experience. I have a lot of experience in an MMA cage. I have a lot of experience in a street fighting. I mean, real street fighting. And probably more than I probably should have. And we'll just leave it at that. But I have a lot of experience in those ranges, okay? Grabbing is not completely out of the scope of possibility, all right? But let's just say that no one would ever grab you. We'll use that as a basis, and we'll consider that for this talk as a fact, okay? Let's just say for a fact it isn't going to happen. No one's going to reach up and grab you like this, okay? So that's my secret second reason I actually teach from a gripping position like this is, now in normal Aikido, when you see someone do a technique, they start like they do this or whatever, and they move you around, and of course you maintain control. You hang on and you go for a week and a half while they do their techniques, and they go up here and you follow them and you go and then unrealistic, possibly. Now, side note, personally, the reason I think that got started in the first place, it's just my personal opinion, and I think I'm correct, although I could be wrong. When this sort of stuff got started, martial arts was still being designed and taught when people still wore swords. People still literally had swords on their sides when these techniques were being developed and used in real life. All right? Now, when someone reaches for their sword, let's say it's someone reaches for their sword, you're going to grab their hand. Keep them from grabbing. Now, honestly, that doesn't stop anything. It's still going to cut your head off or stab you in the gut with it. But beside that point, you're going to grab their hand while they're trying to get their sword. Let's just say they can't pull it out. They can't do anything. Now, no matter what happens, the only thing you're terrified of is them getting that sword out, because that's the most dangerous thing. So you're going to hang on for dear freaking life on that hand so they will never be able to get that sword out. Theoretically. All right? So, yes, if they start moving around like this, you're going to hang on to that hand for dear life. I personally think that's where the attitude came from. Just a personal belief. Anyway, the biggest reason I teach my students from a gripping position, other than I think it's a really good, practical, simple, effective, repeatable way to do techniques when you're learning them, because training is nothing like real fighting. Training and fighting are two completely different things, and most people, especially troll YouTubers, have no clue what they're talking about. Well, that had never happened in real life. Well, it's not supposed to. So, the reason, and let's get to the point, right? Get to the point, Richard. The main reason, and point number 2, why I teach my students to grab like this is because if you're training other Aikido styles or other martial arts, they don't re-grip you, move you and re-grip you. They just kind of move their hand around like this and you just follow them around and they don't grab you back, right? Well, Zenshin Aikijitsu system, we are going to grab you back. So, when they grab you, they touch you. Now you can ask anybody that's ever trained with me, I will tell you one thing. Once you touch me, I've got you. Plain and simple. Once you touch me, that's it. Now, you're going to look at me and say, oh, Richard, you're being a little egotistical, aren't you? Well, maybe so. But once you touch me, I've got you. So I want you to grab me. I want you to grab me. But let's just assume, as we were saying before, that that'll never happen. No one will ever reach up and grab you. All right? That's okay. Because we've trained in a situation for months, for years, for decades, for however long you've been training. We've trained, if you're training with Zenshin Aikijitsu, you're trained by the uki grabbing you, and then there's re-grips. I'm grabbing you back. Boom, I'm grabbing you back, and I'm holding on to you. So I don't care if you grab me or not. I'm actually secretly teaching my students how to grab you. Whether you grab me or not, I don't care. This is just an easy way for me to get to you by allowing you to touch me. But even if you don't touch me, secretly you're being taught to grab them. Now, is that aggressive? Yeah. Is that offensive? Yeah. Is it defensive? Well, I would say I don't like defensive, because defensive is reactive and reactive is too slow, and defensive is passive, and I'm not really a passive person when I'm about ready to rip your head off. So there you go. We train grabs in basic everyday training. One, because it's simple, it's easy, it's effective, it's predictable, it's a good way to start. But secretly, I'm teaching you, even if they don't grab you, I'm teaching you how to get a hold of them, because we do grab back, and that's very important. We definitely going to grab you back. So keeping control, keeping the attitude on your side, and maintaining the power and the ability to do whatever you want, whenever you want to do it, is a strong mental attitude to have when you're in a real fight, plain and simple. Now, is it passive? Absolutely not. Is it aggressive? Absolutely. And that's what's necessary. Unfortunately, a lot of people, especially people who train fluffy martial arts, can't perceive of. But anyway, there we go. Long-winded explanation for the reason we roll and fall is we're keeping and maintaining charge of the entire situation, period. And why do we grab when we start training? Well, because I'm teaching you to maintain control and power and attitude completely. Whether they grab you or not, I'm teaching you how to regrip them. So if they come, they're over here, they're fighting, boom, 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 you come in and you get that arm, bam. They don't even have to grab at you anymore because you instinctively are going to get them.